This is Adamantly Analog, episode 90. This week, we're talking about modern classics and off with their heads. Hello and welcome to Adamantly Analog, episode 90. I'm your host, Corey Murphy.
And I'm your other host, Harrison Dunn.
We're the only podcast to talk about modern classics this week, maybe.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's probably maybe true. I won't do the due diligence to find out.
Yeah, probably maybe true. It's a topic that's been talked about many other times for other podcasts and video series and things like that. So I'm sure you've heard all about it. And as I'm doing this, Harrison, I'm thinking, okay, modern classics. This is a pretty wide topic, and I had to narrow myself down a little bit. So I kind of set the parameters on my games to be released in the last 10 years, highly regarded, and wide appeal. Does that sound pretty on target for yours too?
Yeah, like last 10 to 15 years, uh, and I tried to think of things that would like have a yeah, no, we'll get into it. Each of the ones I kind of picked for a different reason, but 10 to 15
Okay.
years and large or wide appeal or broadly a big audience currently because I think part of what turns something into a classic is that it has a very large audience as it is, so then
Mhm.
that like audience ship gets passed on and spread more rapidly. Uh, you know, part of the reason I think Monopoly is considered a classic is because not only was it one of like the few popular games, but it was present in so many households that it became kind of this uh, institution adjacent experience for tabletop gaming. So,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, yeah, I think that there's a lot of different factors that go into it. Um, I did look up what a classic means in other formats and in
Mhm,
literature. A lot of people classify a classic piece of literature as one that is almost like timeless. So that's
mm,
another way to go about it too, like a game or a book that the content is timeless, can uh, you know reward you with something new every time you revisit it, or is still relevant to modern times. So that's another way to look at it too, and I think our picks meet both of those as well.
yeah, yeah, I would agree. In so like current classics, like not modern classics, I would you mentioned Monopoly and the many other Milton Bradley like big box games that everyone knows about, but I'd also lump in like Catan is classic, is timeless,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
There's like Lords of Waterdeep. I think is like far enough back where I was kind of like, oh, yeah, that was sort of on the verge, right? Like every hobby board gamer knows about it, but does it count as a classic because of like getting into the larger community of people that have ever interacted with a board game in any way? I don't know. I don't think it's quite there yet, but I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, and for that same reason, like, I didn't just pick my favorite games from the top 10 on the BGG list. Like, some of those things have been there for a very long time,
Mhm.
like Brass Birmingham, but at the same time, I don't think that that one you have to understand the bias that comes along with a website like BGG because that is the hobby gamer, and we're trying to look at things that are going to extend beyond just the hobby gaming audience and maybe have a more broad appeal to families and less serious gamers and the friends of those serious gamers and things like that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, a pretty open approach. And if you have any thoughts on this or want to call us out on something we did wrong, go ahead and send us an email at adamantlyanalyanalog@gmail.com.
There you go. Always
Got
hustling,
'em.
Harrison. Hey, let's before we get into this though, let's talk about our recently played games because I got a small list of things I need to cover, and I'm sure you do too because we stay busy with our board gaming, don't we?
Yeah, we do. I do quite a bit of gaming.
Yeah. What do you got?
Well, last week I had the chance to try out some new games. So I got to try Dewan, or Dewan, or I don't know how they want us to say this one. Uh, Dewan. So this is a kind of like area control card management game, hand builder game. Think like Ticket to Ride style. You're just drawing cards and then playing sets to do things.
Mhm.
Um, and this was originally published, I think, by Space Cowboys, and I know it is not in the I don't think it's in the US yet because I played it with, someone who is examining it for, uh, US publication, localization. Was not Thunderworks, we're not looking at this one, but, um, it was it was neat, it was real pretty. I remember seeing the artwork on Board Game Arena when it came out, I think last month,
Mhm.
and it was really eye-catching, so when it was brought out, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I wanna try that." And the basis of the game is you set out these hex tiles in a map. You have a starter location, and then you're trying to fulfill different objectives by placing your little huts or villages across the map. And you do that by playing sets of cards that represent the types of terrain that you have to navigate to get to that location. So you always have to play a card for the terrain that you start on, and then one card for each terrain, and finally one for the type you're landing on. So if you start on a yellow and you want to get to a green, but there's a two oranges in between there, you've got to play yellow, orange, orange, green. You got to have those in your hand. Um, and then there's a bunch of different puzzle elements to it that you can like. You're trying to get. I got to get huts on three different black tiles, or I got to get huts next to three different water spaces. Um, there's some cool like variable objectives in there and lots of replayability, but it ultimately felt just a little. Um, the presentation was nice. The gameplay didn't feel like had that spark that I was really looking for.
Yeah.
Now there are a bunch of advanced modes or different like scenarios that you can play, and we looked at those after playing the base game and was like, okay, and I would try this again because those feel like they would have that little just extra oomph I was looking for. Um, but presentation wise, this game is gorgeous. Like if this whoever picks this up, they're gonna put it on a shelf and it's gonna sell because it is beautiful.
Hmm. It looks
Yeah.
cool. It does it feel anything like Deus? The components remind me of Deus, I don't know why.
Have not played that,
Oh,
so
okay. Sorry, I
don't know.
thought you
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at like a hex board with different colors and is it almost like a tableau that you're building out on your personal player board or what's going on there?
Sort of yes and no. They're little objectives, like objective cards, mission cards, and then when you complete them, you slide them up, which just like indicates that they've been completed. So
Mm,
it's
that's cool.
pretty quick to play. Lots of interesting decisions to make, and plenty of opportunities to get in each other's way.
Yeah, okay, cool. I have to try that. It does sound it sounds like something that I would enjoy, but the
Yeah.
lukewarm review of it makes me think maybe not. I don't know.
The other one that I got to try was I picked up on a total whim, did not even realize it was a thing. There's a new version of Fantasy Realms out, and it is
Oh, what?
Fantasy Realms Greek Legends. So they took the Fantasy Realms formula and put all these Greek legendary characters, Greek myth characters. And yeah, it was 20 bucks at my local game store, and I was like, I shouldn't. I don't need another game. And then 30 seconds later, I was buying it. Uh,
Whoops.
and so it's Fantasy Realms. It's the you got a hand of cards. You're going to draw one and discard one on your turn. And once 10 cards have been discarded to the center of the table, then the game's over and you score. The big difference from this one is that you have a personal discard pile, and some of the cards can be discarded to this personal discard pile, referred to as the afterlife. Um,
Mm,
and so those cards in your afterlife uh, are basically count as if they were in your hand. So you can have effectively a larger hand and score more cards, but every card in your afterlife is also worth minus 10 points. So you're trying to like balance, this card is really good for me and it powers up all these other cards, but is it worth discarding for the minus 10 right now? Can I make that up later?
hmm,
So it's a little bit like extra space and ends up feeling a lot crunchier for a Fantasy Realms game. Um, I've only played it once, so maybe that crunch would get a little soggy after a few more plays, but I found it pretty interesting, and anyone who's a big fan of Greek mythology is gonna have a lot of fun with this one because 'cause it's got heroes and gods and monsters and quests and all these different characters. It was pretty cool.
nice. This art looks like it's straight out of a Nickelodeon cartoon or something.
Yep, it's pretty cartoony. It was a WizKids production. I don't recognize the artist. Darren Calvert. This is the artist who does a lot of stuff for Brotherwise games, so the Overboss, Boss Monster games, um, Call to Adventure. So it looks like he's a uh, pretty varied in his style. So this was an art direction choice. How about you, Corey?
Nice. I got a couple of review copies in from Druid City Games, both in the Wonderland's War universe, which they seem to be doing many spin offs of these days. Off with Their Heads is a 2026 and right game, as well as Madcala, which is a two-player only game from 2025. Again, both with the same art style and characters from Wonderland's War. Neither of them really resemble Wonderland's War in the way that they play. But, I'd like to start with Off with Their Heads. This one is a 2 to 4 player and write game that involves playing traditional 52 card deck cards to determine where you're gonna write on your board. I'd say it's very light. It's pretty easygoing, and I wouldn't say it's tight. Like you don't ever feel like stressed about finding the number or color that you're trying to write on your page. So if that's if that's a turn off to you already, then I would say that's a big theme here. But we did enjoy this one. The concept is that all players are playing from a hand of 9 cards dealt to them at the start of each round, and the queen, there's a queen token that goes around on a board that basically determines like the hierarchy of each different suit. And so if the queen is on the heart suit, then you follow around clockwise on the board and you say, okay, hearts are the strongest, clubs are the next strongest, then diamonds, and then spades are the weakest. So when you play a card face down, eventually they're all revealed. Whoever has the strongest card gets to mark in the top section of their board that card's number, and following limitations based on that card's color too. So there's a top section, a middle section, and a low section. If you have the lowest card by suit, you mark in the bottom section of your board, and otherwise it's in the middle in the woods. And so they all kind of score in different ways. The top section is a bunch of mushrooms. You're trying to fill up the entirety of each mushroom without repeating any numbers. The middle section is a bunch of treetops with different colors, and you're trying to surround different scoring spaces. And then the bottom section is the keep, and you're trying to kind of like work your way into the middle from with the red cards on the left side and the black cards on the right side. And then there's bonuses for getting into the center. So kind of interesting take on end right games. It really doesn't kind of move the needle too far as like the card play goes, but it was fun to have a little bit more control over like where and what you're gonna write. The game has all sorts of different incentives for doing various things, represented by the different Wonderlandians. If you know Wonderland's War, you know what I'm talking about, like Humpty Dumpty and the Mad Hatter and stuff. If you do various different satisfy various different goals, you can put a check mark in their boxes, and at the end of the game, there's a different scoring benefit from having many of those represented at your tea party. And then lastly, and this is kind of the bizarre thing, since you play a hand of 9 cards, you only play 7 hands each round. So there's gonna be 2 leftover cards, which you're gonna kind of tuck underneath your board or just kind of set aside. And after the game is basically complete, the last thing you do is you build a poker hand out of those 6 cards that you've ended up with, and you can score additional points for having the best hand or for having pairs or runs or flushes or whatever it may be. So yeah, kind of an odd take on the end right. It was like I said, easygoing. It's weighted at a 2 on Board Game Geek, and I'd say that's pretty accurate. Plays in about 30 minutes and has some excellent production quality too. The cards are really cool looking. The boards are really awesome, and yeah, fits in a nice little box. Have you heard of this?
I've not, just except from you. It's got that beautiful Manny Tremblay art on it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I love the idea of the Wonderland's War world, but
Yeah.
I just I haven't tried Wonderland's War. I'm not like super jazzed to try this gigantic bag builder dudes on a
Mm-hmm.
map fighty game. Like it looks wonderful, but not really the thing I gravitate towards. And this sounds like it is much more my speed. So I'm looking forward to trying this out.
Yeah, I think you'd like this. I do like Wonderland's War quite a bit. I've played that game like only a handful of times. We don't own it, but you're right. It is a big, giant, hulking beast of a game and has all of the deluxeification options you can ever imagine. So I think that seems to be the case for a lot of these Druid City releases. They pretty much they pull all the stops as far as inserts and plastic components and play mats and things like that go. This one's a little bit more like to the point, and I think it's appropriate for what it is, being a Android game. But yeah, enjoyed this one quite a bit. I think we'll try it again with more players. We played the two-player version of it, and it seems to work just fine with two players as well. There's an added element of flipping kind of random cards into the pot each turn to represent
Mhm.
NPC characters. And then lastly, we played Madcala, and I have to say, I was very excited to try this one. I like the idea of a two-player duel game that uses a Mancala system.
Yep.
Um, this one again, components are awesome. Like it has a great organizer. There's plastic chits, kind of like the Wonderland's War upgrades. There are these big, beautiful art cards, and man, it's just like it was very promising. And then we started playing the game, and I have to be completely honest, I was not thrilled. We didn't enjoy this one, and I'm bummed, but I think as soon as we understood that it was this kind of confrontational, it's almost like a magic sort of system where you're trying to damage the opponent's life total down to zero. I was like, "Oh, man, this is probably not right for my wife and I to play." But then on top of that, the Mancala system felt really disappointing. Mancala, I think, is a cool concept for a game. I love it in Trajan. I've heard it's really great in Osea. Um, but this one, you move the pieces, and that basically just determines which action you're gonna take depending on where you land. There's no benefit from matching anything or lining anything up. It's really just action selection. And with that in mind, you're not terribly limited in what you can do because there's lots of ways to manipulate that in the first place. And then similar to like the villainous series of games, there's this asymmetry that you kind of you select at the start of the game. You play as one of the characters. They have additional cards that have abilities and functions on them, and they give you some kind of thematic approach to the way that you play. That wasn't all that interesting either, I'm sorry to say. Um, so I think if you like the concept of villainous and you're interested in kind of a head-to-head, like, duel sort of game where you're damaging one another and gaining health and, manipulating, each other's, approach to, attacking you, I think this might be something you wanna check out, but if that doesn't sound interesting to you, then I don't know if I can recommend it, unfortunately.
Yeah, you mentioned right before the call that, you think that I would bounce off this one pretty hard, and everything that you said about that, from the moment that I saw the BGG page classify it as Mancala and Take That, I was like, "Ooh, okay."
Yeah. Yeah.
I like trying most things once, but and yeah, you're right, the production does look gorgeous on this, but I might not be the target audience.
Yeah, I appreciate having had the chance to try it with the review copy, but like I said, I have to be honest with this one, and I don't feel like the actions were very compelling to me. I mean, some of them are functionally just 2 damage to your opponent, or gain a health, or place another chip on the board to play Mancala with. Um, yeah, it was kind of bizarre. So that was Mad Call Out from Druid City Games. Time to move on to our featured topic, Harrison. We're going to talk about modern classics today.
Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop. Okay, so again, we're gonna pick three each, and these are games that we consider to be modern classics based on various parameters that we didn't necessarily communicate before making our selections. But I think we ended up pretty close together on our approach and interpretation of that. Um, we're gonna determine the first player based on the first player rule from the game Love Letter, and that is the player who most recently went on a date. And I think that's appropriate given that it was Valentine's Day over the weekend. And I do know that we rescheduled this podcast, well, for me, first of all, but also because you went to a concert or something?
Yeah, we went to, 2 musicals in the past week. So if you consider musicals and going to a musical a date night, then I got 2 in the last week.
Ooh, when was the last one, though?
Friday night.
Oh, all right, I beat you. We went to a musical yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, we
Yeah.
went to go mine
Set that
mine
one up.
wasn't really a date either. We went to go see a high school production of, Urinetown. So not like the nicest subject matter, not a romantic thing in any sense of it, but man, what a great production that was. It was a high school on the west side that put it on. and it was really, really good. Yeah, I'd
Nice.
never seen that musical before.
I can't remember if I have or not. That sounds really familiar. I've definitely heard some of the songs from it, but man, I don't
Yeah,
what's the
if anyone
premise of it exactly?
Yeah, so this is it was written in 2001 actually. So it's a lot older than I thought, but boy is it relevant. It's basically about a city in which it is illegal to go to the bathroom without paying. So
Oh,
if you relieve yourself in public or behind a bush, as they joke about, that is an offense worthy of being sent to Urine Town, which is the place where they send all the people who break the law. Um,
nice. Okay.
so if you can't afford to pee, then yeah, you're considered lower class, and it's got this whole thing. The one of the main characters is the owner of like the big company that owns all the amenities, as they're called, the places to go to the bathroom. It's called Urine Good Company.
Uh-huh.
Um, yep, yeah, exactly. So it's a pretty goofy, funny musical, very campy. Like one of the main characters is two of the main characters rather talk to the audience and are aware that they're in a musical the entire time. Um,
Hmm.
but it was a lot of fun and yeah, very very relevant commentary to today's world.
Yeah, I believe it. And
Yeah,
now that you say that, I definitely haven't seen that one.
yeah.
Well, we went to a high school production too. I don't know. Again, I don't know if I really call it a date, but we the high school that I work at was doing Six, so we went to see that. They
Oh
did
wow.
the high school edition of Six, which very bizarrely they couldn't advertise in any way due to the contract that they had signed. So like they couldn't sell tickets in advance. They weren't allowed to put up posters. It was really strange, but they did a fantastic job with it. And I haven't seen Six, or I don't really know it very well aside from hearing some of the songs, but it's basically a rock concert for an hour and a half, or I should say,
Yep.
a 2000s pop concert.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And I like the junior or teen version of it because it's called 16,
Yeah.
which that's just funny to me.
Have you seen the 16 edition of it?
Oh, I've seen 16, I've seen 6 high school full version, and I've seen the actual Broadway version. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, I'm a big fan of 6. This is very off topic.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We're gonna steer back on gear here. We're gonna talk about modern classics. Remember that. Um, so I'll start off then, and I think this is one we can both agree on because I apparently I stole your idea since you didn't put it on before I.
Yep.
That is Wingspan 2019, Elizabeth Hargrave and Stonemeier Games. I mean, this is the poster child of this topic for me because it is the one that most frequently comes up when I talk to colleagues or anyone about board games. If I ever mention that I do a board game podcast or we have board games at the house, 50% of people are like, "Oh, well, I played Wingspan recently. Have you heard of that one?" Like, yes, I've heard of Wingspan. So, yes, we have this one in our collection. It Something about the presentation of it, the theme of it, the production of it, all of that just makes it so accessible to people that are new to the hobby, but also people that wouldn't really consider themselves hobby board gamers to begin with. It's approachable because it's birds. It's available in big box stores like Target, and it is a really nice quality production for its price tag. So I think people are always floored by what a board game can look and feel like when they play Wingspan. And like, oh, I can get this at Target for $50, and then give them as gifts for other people too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't said much about what Wingspan is, and I don't think I will. I don't think it's important because it is a modern classic, and I think everyone knows, at least has experienced a little bit of what Wingspan's all about. Card, tableau, engine builder. That's all you're going to get this time.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that this game has that, like, classic energy, uh, is one, because it is so accessible like you talked to, but I think it just does so many things right. I think that this design trend of a big deck of unique cards that you get to play with has was really popularized around the time of, like, Terraforming Mars, and I almost put that on the list, but I think Wingspan just does it so much better.
Mhm.
There's just a little more uniformity across any given card, so that someone who's playing for the first time can really understand what they're looking at. They don't have to like understand a different set of rules for a different type of card that they've drawn. You got the beautiful artwork. and then just really simple, easy to understand concepts like, oh, I need to feed my birds because birds in real life eat, and oh, I also need eggs. There's just a lot of concepts that make sense to people when you're trying to teach them. So Wingspan's a relatively complex game.
Mhm.
I think one of the more complex ones on this list, but all of those pieces just fit together so well to make the game way more approachable, way more accessible, and I think that's got a lot to do with its success and its admission as a modern classic.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. It's weighted at a 2.5 on BGG, but this is pretty. It's pretty hefty for someone that's coming from something like Catan as the last played game. Um, and I think it is successful because it's laid out so well. The player boards explain what all the abilities do. All the cards have text that explains them. There's some iconography, but the iconography is like literally a picture of the card that you can see sitting on the table. So it's like, oh, that's what I pick up. I get it. Or this is the food I gather.
Yep.
Um, and so I think that's kind of what makes it shine. But I think the other thing that makes people feel successful when they play it is the balance of determined decision making and the randomness. And I think there's quite a bit of variability in the cards that you see and the dice that you roll, and that allows the playing field to be leveled out a little bit for new players to the game. Whereas
Mhm.
you could win it in the first go of Wingspan, you probably won't win the first go of terraforming Mars. There's just too much depth there and too much knowledge benefit from just being familiar with the cards. Here,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, anyone can pick it up and feel successful in their first try. So that is Wingspan 2019 from Stonemeier Games.
All right. Well, my number one pick that I had to quick pivot on because I realized that we overlapped too much in our lists.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I accidentally broke my own rule because I wanted to do 10 years. But Love Letter came out in 2012. So that's 10, 15 years.
Hmm.
But I think Love Letter is definitely worth talking about. And this is originally designed by Seiji Kanai and published by AEG or distributed by AEG in the US, and this is just a small card game, 18, 20 cards or something like that. And your goal is to be holding the highest value card or the princess card at the end of the game when all the other players are eliminated or the deck has run out. And this this game, I think, does so much. Sorry, let me retake that. I think this game is a modern classic because it does a great job of providing a structure for rules, very simple, straightforward rules that encourage players to get to know each other and their play styles. So,
Mm.
social games and like social deduction games and party games are all kind of really, really popular at all times. And I think they're always going to be. But in the hobby board game space, this straddles that really, really well. It's a simple rule set that's very easy to teach. The concepts are straightforward, but you also have a lot of that personality element that's allowed to come through. One of the level one card, the most common card, is the guard, and it's you choose a player and guess what their card is, and if you're right, that player's eliminated. And that simple act alone can create such an exciting dynamic at a table, especially for friends or family who are going to be playing a lot of games with each other because you're going to build that meta and that play style with each other. Um, and this is something that a lot of good games do if you play them frequently. But this one is accessible, it's quick, and um, I think it's just a great example of this.
Yeah, love it. And it allows you to kind of dip your toes into the like role playing too, because the characters they kind of function technically like they are meant to represent the roles. The guard is guarding the queen or the princess, right? Is that what you said?
Mhm.
Yeah, and so I think without having to do too much creative acting, it's just like this is technically what I'm doing. It's very simple. It's very to the point.
Yeah,
I like that about it.
yeah. That's a nice and easy one, and I think the fact that AEG and others have relaunched and republished this with so many different themes just speaks to its level of accessibility, right? Because the princess theme is fine. It's there. It's going to turn off certain crowds, but they've got like a Batman love letter and I can only ever remember the Batman one off the top of my head. Um, there's one for Archer, there's one for, Danganronpa, yeah, there's a Marvel one, there's the whole Lost Legacy series, which is more of like a sci-fi take on the same type of just draw a card, play a card. There's Adventure Time. Yeah, there's a bunch of them out there, so worth having one in your collection at some point.
Yeah. This one was inducted into the Board Game Geek Hall of Fame, I think like 2 years ago. So that's a good sign for the modern
Oh, yeah.
classic. Uh, yeah.
That's my number 1 pick, Love Letter from AEG.
My second one I picked for a similar reason to Wingspan, but for basically to highlight different aspects of this element of what makes a classic. That is heat pedal to the metal. It's accessible. It is light. It is high production value. And it's really easy to get involved in. It's like, you can basically start playing Heat and just explain to the players as they take each step of the game how it's going to work. And by the second turn, they're fully functional on their own. Um, I'm always shocked. Okay, so Heat is a racing game, and racing seems to be like a kind of a niche genre when it comes to board games. I don't know if you feel the same about that, but when I think of games like Formula Day or Formula D, or like any of the various car games that are out there, I think like not everyone watches racing or engages with car racing on the regular. So this one seems to be kind of subverting expectations of like appealing to a lot of folks. And I'm always shocked at like how many people are playing Heat. It's like you guys don't strike me as the racing crowd, but you're enjoying the game anyway. And I think that speaks to its accessibility and its presentation, and the fact that it's just like a fun and satisfying game, like right off the bat. You start playing, and in the first round, you're already experiencing the like slipstreaming around other cars and how quickly you can change gears. And oh man, it's gonna be cool when I get up to fourth gear and I can just like go really fast on the straightaway. And so that's fun for new players, as well as it's got enough hooks to be engaging to players that are just deep into the hobby board gaming sphere already.
Yeah, I like this as a representative of the deck building genre too, right? Because it's
Yeah, good point.
technically a deck builder, but it's never talked about that as one. I mean, you did that whole description of it as, without using the term deck builder, and I think um, this is just an evolution of where we've gotten from Dominion, because Dominion was like all about deck building, and then we got variations on that, and then we started getting deck building games with a board and more going on, and using deck building as a uh, kind of as a facilitator of those, like Clank and Dune Imperium and Lost Ruins of Arnak. And now we've
Mhm.
got this that kind of takes that core of the contents of your deck matters, but you're never consciously like adding cards to that, right? It's all kind of a result of the decisions that you're making, the heat that you're either adding to your deck or trying to remove. So you have that modifying a deck system in there without ever talking about it as a deck builder, which I think is just a really neat take on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and
yeah, I
and
go ahead.
to speak to that, like there's the garage mode, right, where you can build out your car in the beginning of the game. All of these extra like modules packed into the base game that provide this air of mystery for like, you experience the first game version, but there's all this other stuff in the box. What's that all about? And you can do even more manipulation with some of the different modules that can be added. So that is 2022's Heat Pedal to the Metal.
My number 2 is, uh, another one that I kinda had to slip in here because I was panicking at the last second because you took one of my other picks, but and I don't think like, part of the reason I didn't wanna talk about this is because I talk about Flip 7 so much on this podcast, and I didn't wanna bore people again, um, but Flip 7 came out, 2024, designed by Eric Olsen and published by the Op Games, and this game has just the easiest teach ever.
Yeah.
It has that rolling teach. You can literally sit down and playing, and I think getting getting gamers or getting non-gamers to sit down and play a game, the biggest thing is that they don't want to listen to a rules teach. They don't want to have to like sit there and be distracted. And I'm sure there's a lot of preconceptions that people have about the nature of board games and what goes on at the table. They've seen, you know, one reference to Settlers of Catan or Twilight Imperium on TV, and they just go, "Oh my gosh, board games, that's crazy. I don't want to deal with that." But Flip 7 is just so approachable. You can just sit down, literally start playing, explain the rules as you go, and by the end of it, people are very, very into it, almost every time. And the reason that I'm personally advocating for this game all the time is that I've lived that in my personal life. I've taught it to friends and family who are not gamers, and they absolutely love it to the point that they run out and buy it. I've gotten Lauren's family to buy it. I think both her brother and her sister have copies of it. I've taught it to my mom, who is absolutely not a gamer, and she went out and bought a copy for herself, my brother, and several of her friends right away. And they enjoy it. So now when we go to my mom's, I don't have to bring any board games because I know we can play Flip 7, which is nice. Uh, yeah, I just think this is like the ultimate in approachability and teachability and accessibility in games, and I think it's here for a while.
Yeah, and it's getting the Uno treatment right now with the Flip 7 with a Vengeance that just came out. So, that's a sign of a classic, I think.
I don't know what that is.
Really?
Um,
Oh. Yeah, so
oh,
it's just basically taking the game and changing the power-up cards that show up in there. Swap cards are added and discard cards, divided by 2 modifiers.
that is that is hilarious because I was I have a small list of, custom Flip 7 cards that I wanted to
Oh,
add to a deck, and the ones that I had were, a swap power and a, times -1 power. So
mhm.
you just invert someone's score. Yeah, no, that's super cool. Okay. I did not know this was coming out, and, Lauren's gonna hate it, but I'm gonna grab a copy as soon as I can.
Yeah. So have you heard of this Smosh channel on YouTube?
I have,
Smosh
yeah.
is like yeah, so I think this game kinda blew up on there. I'm looking at it now. Their video about Flip 7 has 3.2 million views, which is
Oh, that's
insane.
pretty big.
Yeah, and so on numerous occasions, I've run into people that are talking about Flip 7 because they watched it on Smosh, and then the fact that it's like a $10 game, they go out and buy it. So that certainly helped them with this one. But they've done a pretty significant marketing push on Flip 7 overall. So I think they're really trying to solidify it as that sort of like Uno status, you know. It's just something everyone's got in their house and everyone knows how to play, and you can bust it out with a crowd, and it kind of spreads naturally because of what you said. It's just so easy to learn and so cheap to buy a copy.
Yeah. Oh, it didn't even talk about the fact that it can play any number of players out of the
And
box, right? You know,
yeah, and then there's that.
that's huge.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
huge, yeah.
and then you just join in the middle of a game too, so it's got a
Yep.
lot going for it. But yeah, this is a great pick. I was gonna include it myself, so I'm glad you're talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't realize that, Smosh had a big play in this. We are we're watching through a lot of the College Humor stuff right now on the Dropout, and then, Angela Giarratana is a Smosh person too, so we keep seeing overlap between that, and sure enough, she is in the Flip 7 video, so I'll have to
Yeah.
watch this one.
Yeah, funny story, real quick. I walked into a party after Christmas with like some high school friends and stuff, and the first people I see are having a conversation about Flip 7 because of the Smosh video. I literally had it in my bag. It was the only game I brought that day. So they said, "Hey, have you played it?" And I said, "I have." And I like pull it out. So here we are, 5 minutes later, we're playing Flip 7. So that's funny.
Excellent, love to hear it.
Yeah.
Signs of a modern classic right there. Go out and play it.
Yep.
That's, Flip 7 from the Alp Games.
All right, my third and final pick is my representative poker of the aughts, or is aughts 2018 aughts? Does that count? Yeah, right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Poker of the 2010s. And
Nailed
so
it.
yeah, for this one, I picked Azul. I think Azul is that game. I play it exclusively at 2 players on Board Game Geek quite a bit, but it does flex up to 4. That said, the two-player experience of Azul is very poker-like. It is not completely deterministic because you're drawing random tiles to place on the drafting floor, But the way that it plays out, where it's very strategic and you have to be super aware of what you're doing to your opponent when you make certain decisions, or what opportunity you're allowing them or affording them by making your decisions. It feels very head to head duel. And I think it does a really good job of that. Maybe too good of a job, because there's some people that just hate Azul because it is so I don't know if confrontational is the word, but so interactive, I guess. Maybe
Yeah,
like
it can be really mean. Yeah.
it can be really mean. Yeah. But I think it's just like a brilliant design by Michael Kiesling, I should say, published by Next Move Games, because of the fact that it does allow so much strategy and so much depth and experience, like benefiting from experience with this game. Um, and for quite a while, I mean, this came out in 2018. It's almost 10 years ago now. It was kind of like my go-to wedding gift for folks. But when I consider how mean it can be, I don't know if I want to give that to a newly married couple. it it does fit the bill for like very nice production. The pieces are like those wonderful little plastic starburst pieces. The board is nice material, and again, accessible rule set, but then like really pushes the limit on like what you can do strategically, and I really
Mm.
like that about Azul. I think it's here to stay for many years.
Yeah, that absolutely. Yep, that was the other one that you snagged from my board, from my list, and it's so good in a lot of those things, and I think that, like, confrontational nature of it is one of the things that I think it does so well because it presents itself as a very basic rule set, and the first time you play, you can just take it as that, and it has so much room to learn and grow and especially evolve with you and your group's play styles. So, yeah,
Yeah.
excellent.
I should note also getting the Uno treatment with the many many Azul spin-offs coming out. Some of them are actually pretty good too. I don't know if you played many of those, but I had a good time
Well,
with
a lot of them are just,
the
like, completely
Pavilion.
different games, right?
They follow the same concept. It's all about drafting plastic tiles.
Right, right, but the, like, Summer Pavilion and Queen's Garden are very, very different,
Yeah.
uh, styles of that same take, yeah.
Yeah, in the same way that Uno All Wilds is. Anyways, my pick was Azul 2018.
You heard it here on Adamantly Analog, Azul is basically just the new Uno.
That's not what I said.
Okay, my third and final pick is from 2016. This is a Bruno Cathala game published by Blue Orange Games, and that is, of course, King Domino. So, King Domino is the tile laying game, tile drafting game where you're building a little grid in front of you to try to score those different regions. And very simple, straightforward rule set that lets you kind of build your own little thing like lots of modern Euros do, but you just have that little point of interaction where you really care what other people are doing in the center of the table and how they're drafting and how they're picking their tiles.
Mhm,
So each round, you're going to reveal some tiles and order them by their rank, which is their relative strength or their relative value. And the higher value tile you pick, the later in the pick order you're going to be for the following turn. So there's a really nice tension there in offering players the opportunity to feel like they're in control and feel like there's real costs to the things that they want. Um, and I mean, this is just another one that's been around for a while, gotten plenty of different versions or iterations. With Queen Domino, with the prehistoric version of King Domino, I forget what that one's called.
mhm,
Moon
yeah.
River, uh, and yeah, this is one that'll never leave our collection because it's such an easy win and nice thing to teach to newer players. Yeah, it's a good time.
Oh, Moon River is King Domino? I had no idea.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, they're little puzzle pieces. That's cool. Nice. Yeah, oh, this is a good choice, Harrison. I don't see it coming out with the heavier board game crowds very often, but I think it ought to. It's just like a really tuned design, and it really gets to the point and does a good job of once again allowing quite a bit of strategic depth in a small rules set.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think the heavier Euro crowd would enjoy Moon River more. Um, it just made me want to play regular King Domino, so I ended up getting rid of it. But I think
mm,
it would find a lot more success with that crowd.
yeah, nice, good choice.
Right, so that's my third and final pick, King Domino.
All right, my picks were Wingspan, Heat, and Azul.
And I picked Love Letter, Flip 7, and King Domino.
Nice. Those are certainly classics. We'll be talking about them in 10 years, I'm sure. All right. So before we go today, I wanted to cover some things that we've been doing outside of board games, and I'm just gonna jump in and start off, Harrison, because I
Do it.
gotta talk about the Olympics.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been watching the Olympics, as many people have. It's the Winter Olympics, and it's been very fascinating to me. It's kind of a bizarre phenomenon, the Olympics. It's a bunch of stuff that we don't interact with, but every 4 years when the Olympics are on. Like I don't know how often people are watching figure skating or mogul skiing, but the fact that it exists and it's out there, and there's a very focused crowd on just improving their skill set on those things, it kind of reminds me of board gaming in a certain way because you know that like not everyone's aware of how deep the board gaming community goes. And it's the same about the, like I said, mogul skiing people, right? They're really freaking good at it. And it it just goes to show how they dedicate their lives to the craft. What what also kind of like drew my attention was mogul skiing. There was a I watched it like a dual race last night, and there are two skiers going down moguls, and then they'd hit a jump and do like some kind of stylized backflip, and then they continue racing. And my board gamer brain, where everything is like confined in a rule book and can be determined by math and points, it could not handle it because it's a race, right? Like you get there first and you get some benefit, but then there's also this element of subjectivity where the judges are like, "Yes, that flip was better than the other flip, and the way that you landed earns you more points." And that was like, my head exploded. We can't do that with board games, can we? Or maybe we can. It's just it hasn't been explored. But I feel like board gamers would really struggle with that combination of math and subjective scoring. It's like if you mix apples to apples with terraforming Mars.
uh, yeah, I mean, with any specific subject, there's going to be those experts who just, that's their whole life. That's what they do. That's what they love.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be a surreal situation when you have something you're that passionate about it, and you just kind of connect the dots and realize, oh, people like that weird stuff as much as I like this weird stuff. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
have
cool.
that moment more and more as I get older. It's terrifying.
There's so many folks out there with different passions and hobbies, and I drove past a muskie expo yesterday up in Wisconsin, and it was like, holy cow, there's a lot of cars there. People love muskies. It's not fishing; it's specifically muskie muskie fishing. And that kind of made me think of like our board game conventions that we go to on the weekends, and there's some 700 people there that all are just like dedicated to it.
Yep.
So interesting. Yeah, how about you?
So Lauren and I have been working our way through the College Humor shows, as I mentioned, and we started watching one called Very Important People. Have I mentioned this one to you yet?
No.
I don't think I have. Yeah. So this is our third show that we're kind of watching through here, and yeah, I think we are enjoying it more because we know the comedians and the actors that are coming onto the show. But the premise is one person gets put in a costume or makeup that they have no idea what it is. They're told to like close their eyes, and then a makeup crew works on them for 2, 3, 4 hours and puts them in these absolutely absurd costumes, and then they have to make up a character on the spot and sit down for an interview. Um, and so in one episode, the first episode, they put someone up in uh, crazy, like bubblegum pink clothes, sparkles, this crazy wig, and they decided that they were a European pop star. And the next person they did in full prosthetics and makeup to look like a purple alien with like bulging eyes and antennae. Um, it is absolutely bizarre, weird television. Um, but there's just some outrageously funny moments where Laura and I have been like, we've had to pause it and replay it because we were laughing and crying so hard. Um, so it's a very unusual premise for a show. And then after every episode, they do a little behind the scenes and they talk about how they did the costuming or why they did certain things with the costume. And it's fascinating to see like the art of makeup and costume design for film and television has gotten so advanced that now there's a show where they just do it for fun to make characters up and see what happens. Um, so it's a very cool experience overall.
That sounds fun. I love college humor. I always forget that that's a thing. I need to Wait, is it on YouTube, I imagine?
I'm sure the clips are. If you've seen any of them, there's one where they dress up, 2 comedians, Brennan Lee Mulligan and Jacob Wysocki, as giant babies. That
Mm.
one gets a lot of, views, I hear. I have not seen the episode myself yet, but that one, anytime I mention it, they're like, "Oh, yeah, that's the thing where they made Brennan Lee Mulligan a baby."
Hmm,
Yeah.
nice. Cool. Well, I will have to check that out. All right. Well, that takes us to the end. And that means that we're going to have to shout out what we're doing next week. We are going from modern
Don't sound
classics.
so disappointed.
Sorry. I was just thinking about how awkward that transition was, and I got distracted by my own awkwardness there. And so now I'm just going to address it and continue moving forward. Next week, we're going to be talking about 6+ player games, games for large groups. This is one we haven't done before. I can't believe it. I've got quite a list for this group.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of value in those large player count games, and I do not promise I won't talk about Flip 7.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say that's one. um, you
That's
just
all.
did though.
Yeah, I said I promise I won't promise I won't do it next week.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Adamantly Analog is Corey Murphy and Harrison Dunn. Original themes and bumper music by Corey Murphy. Reach us at adamantlyanalog@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.